Hello everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel called IELTS Speaking and Writing. Today we will be analyzing Speaking Part 3, taken from Cambridge IELTS Academic Book 17, Test 1. More specifically, we'll be analyzing one particular topic called Facilities in Cities. My name is Neil Bakiev and I'm a CELTA qualified teacher from New Zealand. Okay, now let's analyze the first question. Which facilities are most important to people living in cities? Here is my response. Of the multiple facilities available to people living in cities, I would like to focus on good schools and public transport. Speaking of good schools, I should say that education is the key to a successful career path later in life, which in turn will be vital for providing for a family financially. Therefore, each city needs to establish great schools equipped with the best computers and well-qualified teachers. As for public transport, the government's role should be to make buses and subway systems available to the vast majority of the public. If people can travel easily across the city, they will be able to reach any destinations quickly and comfortably. I'm thinking particularly of commuters. Okay, so here the examiner asks you to focus on facilities. Pay close attention to the word here, facilities, right? So which means that we need to talk about at least two facilities, right? Okay, and of course the examiner also wants to know why we think so. And therefore here I'm using this great phrase to increase my score in fluency. So I just say, of the multiple facilities available to people living in cities, I would like to focus on, okay? And then I focus on the first facility, which is good schools, and the second one, public transport. And then in the next paragraph, I'm referring to the first facility, which I have mentioned before, by saying, speaking of good schools, I should say that, and then I explain this in detail, right? So as you can see, here I'm talking about good schools, and here I'm talking about education. Okay, and then I also say which in turn, which means and as a result of this, and then talk about the next result or the next effect, and then therefore, which means that's why, and again I explain what result students will get. All right, and then I'm referring to the next facility in the next paragraph by saying as for public transport, because before I've already mentioned this, right? Public transport, and then I'm talking about this in detail. Okay, now let's focus on the next question. How does shopping in small local shops differ from shopping in large city center shops? Okay, here's my response. I would assume that the major difference would be the range of products available to customers. Obviously, while small shops have a limited range of items, large ones, for example, supermarkets, have significantly more products on display at a competitive price. For instance, although my local store offers fresh produce, I can choose only 3 varieties of cheese. By contrast, the supermarket located in my area has at least 7 types of cheese. That would be the major difference, I presume. Okay, so the question is, how does shopping in small local shops differ from shopping in large city center shops, right? So here, the examiner wants to know the exact difference, and here's my response: the range of products available to customers. Okay, and then in my response I explain this in detail. Okay, so you can just say like I would assume that, which basically means that you're not 100% sure, but you're trying to guess. And instead of saying the big difference, it's better to say the major difference, and here again would be, not is, because you're trying to assume, you're not entirely sure, you're not an expert in this field. And then you can say obviously, and then talk about this. For example, for instance, By contrast, when you want to show something, okay, something different, and then that would be the major difference, I presume. So this is my conclusion. All right, now let's focus on the next question. Do you think that children should always go to the school nearest to where they live? Here's my response. Yes, I most definitely do. The primary reason for this is that some parents are extremely busy with household chores and business-related matters. Therefore, they are unable to accompany their children to school. However, if a school is within walking distance from home, children will be able to walk to school or ride a bicycle to get there. For example, while I was lucky enough to walk to the closest school when I was a child, some of my classmates always had difficulty getting to school by bus, which would have taken them about 40 minutes or so. Okay, so here the question is, do you think that children should always go to the school nearest to where they live? Okay, so when you hear this question, do you think, right? The examiner wants you to say yes or no, or I partly agree with this statement, or I partly disagree with the statement, and then you need to explain why. Okay, so here I say yes, I most definitely do, which means yes, I definitely think so, basically. Okay, and then I say the primary reason for this is that, which basically means the main reason for this is that, and then I provide one specific reason, and then I say therefore, which means that's why, however, and I'm talking about the opposite situation, and then for example, and then I just provide one specific example here. Okay, dear students, how would you answer the same questions asked by the IELTS examiner? These are the questions. Which facilities are most important to people living in cities? How does shopping in small local shops differ from shopping in large city center shops? Do you think that children should always go to the school nearest to where they live? Please post your responses in the comments below. Then help one another by giving advice and recommendations. Best of luck, Neil.